Financial Planner, presented by BSC, Investors Protection Fund.
Hello and welcome. You're watching Financial Planner. Joining us in the studios today is Rajesh Krishnamurthy, Managing Director of iFast Financials, to talk to us about what we need to watch out for and what one should not do while planning their finances. Thanks, Rajesh, for joining in this evening. Rajesh, Financial Planner, that's what we call our show, right? To begin with, everyone tells us what we should be doing, but no one really tells us what we should not be doing. And I guess it's very important to know what not to do as opposed to only know what to do. To begin with, I know a lot of us, a lot of beginners normally get intimidated by the whole process of financial planning. It just seems a lot more cumbersome than it actually is. So therefore we put off making a financial plan to a later date. Why should one avoid not having a plan to begin with?
Yeah, so I mean, you're saying what not to do. So I think many of us are happy saying that, why bother, because it's too cumbersome, and what is in it if I really do it. I haven't really seen anybody saying that, because I have a financial plan, I'm a happier man or a happier woman or a better family, right? So until such time somebody actually comes ahead and says, hey, I got this done for myself because I had a plan, you don't really think that it's necessary to do it. So that pretty much explains the reason why many of us, especially in India, do not see the need to plan.
Right.
I think that's one of the basic and most fundamental obstacles to having a secure financial future.
Right.
So as I say this, I'm sure many viewers would be thinking, I never thought of one.
Yeah.
I never had the need to think about one. But I think that's more essential. You got to understand that if you don't have a plan, and then the old school that tells us not having a plan is planning to fail.
Right.
So failing to plan is planning to fail.
Right.
So I think financial planning is very important.
Why does one need it?
Well, you see, I mean, we all live in an environment of uncertainty. We don't know what happens to us tomorrow. It's not just about our lives or our jobs, but in general, if you look at it, we are part of a lot of moving parts, right? Now, if you don't plan, what do I do for my children if I'm not around? What do I do for my wife if I'm not around? These questions, when you ask yourself, you understand that you're missing a lot of important things in life by not addressing these questions. It's there in the back of your mind.
Yeah.
You're fearful that should something happen, what will happen to my family? But at the same time, we fail to act on it because when you're fearful, you tend to avoid these questions, saying that I would be one of those more fortunate people in the world who will not
think anything wrong can happen to you.
So typically that's the starting point. We think that we are better off than the others. We think that the God would be more merciful on us because we are good Samaritans and nothing wrong will happen to us. And that's the starting point. So you avoid the tougher questions.
Right.
So when you plan, what you essentially try to do is you try to become very practical in your thinking. And that's very important.
Right.
So when you become practical, you start asking yourself, what am I doing today which allows me or my family members to have a certain level of living?
Right.
For example, a simple thing. So you move around in a car maybe, but what will happen if I'm not around? Would they still be able to move around in a car?
Right.
Or would they have to
step down?
Would I like that for my family, or are they okay even if that happens? Now when you get to that very simple answer, then you know that you need to do something or the other to get this going in the future. And that's why we kind of say in the financial planning world that you need to cover the risk of replacing your income,
right.
For example.
Right.
That's why you should do it.
So it's got to be done.
It's got to be done.
Sooner than later, and it's always good to start early than start later.
Yes.
Well, Rajesh, so we've got to the reason of why a financial plan is required and how we avoid actually getting down to basics or making a financial plan. But I think the cornerstone of a financial plan is also getting your priorities right.
Absolutely.
A lot of us get that so wrong. So you might at least in terms of queries, you get a lot of people who try and dig into their a retirement fund to pay for the child's wedding, or to even pay for a holiday, only because their retirement goal is so long and so far away from today's time. How important is it for one to get their priorities right, and why should one not actually mix that up, because it's so important to meet your goals eventually?
Sure. I mean, you're bang on, because as we move around, meet different people, we understand that they keep tossing various questions. Many times during casual conversations, even in a wedding reception, I can come across this question: where do you think I should put my money in? I just want to get it doubled in the next few months or so. And I go and ask him, I mean, for what? What do you want to double it for?
Yeah.
I mean, they say, I mean, having money is always good, but that's always there. Having money is good, but the bigger question is, for what? And that is what I would expect everybody to answer before they toss a question to anybody about money. For what do I have to get this going? And you just mentioned, for the child's education or for marriage. That's the answer. I mean, for what am I trying to invest? I'm trying to invest for my child's education. Then we get to know, okay, my child's education, these are the milestones, this is what I need to look at, and all of that. But sometimes, typically what happens is you just don't want to do anything. You just say, I just want to invest. Just want to invest. Just make money. So
also, what about people making a mistake? And I think this happens very often when even though you might have a financial plan, you might sort of let go of your long-term goals to fulfill your short-term goals.
True.
And how right or wrong is this? Because you come across this so often. If you want to go on a holiday, you'll dig into your retirement fund. Which is, of course, I mean, you want to buy a car, that's exactly what you'll do again. That's not even right, is it?
That's true. So it relates to the earlier statement you made on priorities. So the way we look at it is, whenever we try to sit and have a chat with any person who wants to look at his finances, we try to first understand what does he want to do first, and the next and the next. It may not necessarily be in terms of the number of years to that goal. It will be about, even if it was retirement, is that his top priority? Is he worried that his retirement is the one that's going to take the maximum hit because of certain reasons? I mean, maybe family related, maybe worry around the cost, the inflation. I mean, food and vegetables seem to be scary, right? The way you look at it, eggs. I mean, anything that you take, it's going so much higher than expected that people start worrying, what's it going to cost me when I'm going to retire? So I'd rather start saving. So that's one part. So trying to find out amongst the various things that you want to do, whether it's retirement, whether it's special needs like your child's education, even a holiday. Many people plan for a holiday, or even buying something that you really wanted it for a long time. It's not wrong to have some of them, but you still want to plan for it. So if you have done all of that, maybe you say that that gadget that I want to buy is going to be the last of all my financial priorities. I like it, but it doesn't really reach the highest priority. So your iPad mini could wait. Maybe you get a bonus, an iPad Nano sometime later. But is that a priority? Should I really be blowing out another 30,000-40,000 today because I like iPad mini? I mean, and therefore sometimes we get into impulsive purchases. Yeah,
which happens so often, especially with the aggressive use of credit cards. Again, I think that is one of the factors that every financial planner would tell you: avoid using a credit card as much as you can. Why is it that? Why has impulsive purchases become such a big deal by the end of it? You don't have a budget for it, I guess. That's why.
That's one. So you don't have a plan. You don't know what your priorities are. Therefore, what attracts you is what's very recent. I mean, whatever is there in front of you. A lot of ads.
If it's visually appealing, you'll go buy it.
Absolutely, and I'm sure the media is very good at giving you the best visuals today. I mean, the advertising and the marketing segment use all the kinds of media that they would to approach you as a customer. But what happens here is that okay, you know that you like this product. You aim for the easiest available option, and that's a credit card. Now in financial planning, I mean, not just financial planning, if you just look at prudence in using your money, I keep giving this thumb rule that the easiest available loan
Yeah.
is by default the most costliest.
Because it's so easy.
Because
there's
it's
never
so
a free
easy,
lunch.
It's never, there's never a free lunch. So your credit card is pretty much a pre-approved loan,
Exactly, yeah.
and you just go swipe it whenever you want. And then you realize that if you look at the terms and conditions of your credit card, 43% per annum interest rate,
Yeah.
or 36%. That sets you back, and then you wonder, oh, did I really take credit at such a high cost? Because the more paperwork you need to do, the more tougher it is to get the loan. You know that you're going to get a better deal because you've satisfied various conditions, and then you are asking for some money. So if you look at the easiness, you first start with a credit card. The next easy thing is to get a personal loan,
Right.
an unsecured loan. Then you have a tougher version, which is, a secured loan, where you need to give some security,
Yeah.
like a mortgage and all of that. But if you notice, a credit card might be 36%, 40%, whatever. A personal loan would be about 20-25%. But if you go for a home loan, which is a secured loan, it's about 13%.
A lot of us leave tax, rather we call financial planning tax planning more often than not. And we leave it to the last day at your end because you've got to file your tax, and you'll come up, and the first investment that you come across is what you'd go do. Now that should be avoided as well, right? Because I mean that's not very efficient to begin with, and it's not going to really do too much because it's so ad hoc. It's so ad hoc in nature. You've got one day and you allocate your funds to wherever you want, only to save taxes.
True. So that's where the whole first conversation we had comes into place, because if you had a plan, if you had decided that this is what I want to do with my money for a certain purpose, then you are much more prepared to handle that objective when it is in sight. So if you know that by 31st of March you're supposed to finish your tax saving investments, and you know certain provisions that you can use and you may not be able to use, then planning your investment at that point in time would be a lot more tougher than having planned it earlier.
Right.
So as you said, today a lot of investors, a lot of savers, I would say, are sitting on unit-linked policies.
Right.
Because every time between Jan and March, you get a lot of ads around saying
So
that
that's really
ATC, invest into this insurance product. You never know why you're investing. You just know that you're investing because you can save tax. Whether it appeals to you, whether it is suitable for you, whether it covers the risk, that's not your concern. That's a problem, and that's a structural problem. And the better we are at understanding this issue earlier in our life, the better we will be. Yes.
That's of course all that you need to do while you're making a financial plan, and what you should not do as well, on back of those common mistakes that most of us make when we think or talk about financial planning. We'll take a break on that note. We'll come back and take your financial planning queries, so stay tuned.
The Financial Planner, presented by BSC Investors Protection Fund. Investors Protection Fund.
Welcome back. You're watching Financial Planner. It's now time for us to take up all your queries.
Investment Ladder, presented by BSC Investors Protection Fund.
We've got a query, Rajesh, coming in from Rahul. He says he's a salaried person with a CTC of 17.5 lakhs per annum. He lives in a rented flat, so he's of course not got his own house just yet. He wants to own a flat of 1600 square feet in Lucknow and wants to have about 1.5 to 2 crores of corpus for his retired life. How and where should he be investing to achieve those goals? He's 40 years now and is slated to retire at the age of 60. He expects a moderate salary growth of 6 to 7% per annum, and his responsibility, he says, is limited to his wife and his 7-year-old daughter. So I'm guessing education is also going to be a priority for him, given that he's got one daughter.
Yes. I mean, if you just look at what he wants from us, he says specific to his retirement and also looking at his home. And I think in a way we must appreciate his question, because he's one of those few viewers who would have just come in and specified
what exactly
he wants. Because many times we just get questions that, just ask for generic information. A couple of things here, Samina. I mean, for Rahul, if you look at it, in Lucknow today, I guess the home loan, I mean the property rates are hovering around 3,000 per square feet. It pretty much depends on which part of Lucknow is living, but on an average it's somewhere around that. And for the kind of house he is talking about, let's take 3,000 as a benchmark. That's going to cost him about 48 lakhs. He's fairly conservative. He's just looking at 6 to 7% of salary growth. We will keep a conservative estimate as well as we think about what he should be doing. Now let's assume that he wants to buy this home in the next 5 years. And let's assume he doesn't want to take a loan. I mean, I'm not too sure, he hasn't mentioned anything specifically. But without a loan, if you were to get into buying this property, it means that at this point in time, you should be investing about 60,000 plus.
Okay.
Every year for the next 5 years, so that he is able to reach the 48 lakhs. And here we are assuming about 10% return on his investment. That's one side of it. Related aspect here is that he can currently look at an under construction property or a project that would get launched, and where the delivery could be over the next 3 to 4 years, which pretty much would kind of run alongside with this plan.
Right.
So anywhere between 4 to 5 years, and if he is blocking his investment right now for a property, then he gets the time to pay. So he need not really wait for the entire 48 lakhs to be there in his hand, and gives him some space to breathe as well. I mean, should something go here or there, he's still able to plan. That's one. Alongside, he says, his responsibility is limited to his wife and daughter. Let's assume that he wants to take any kind of loan for his property. Then certainly what he has to do is he has to cover that liability with a simple term plan for the extent of the liability. So if he is taking a 20 lakh loan for the 48 lakhs, he should get himself a 20 lakh term plan just to cover the specific liability.
Okay.
Everything else, let's assume that he's done, for his family. Now comes his second query around the retirement corpus. 20 years, fairly good time frame.
Yeah.
And typically when people talk about a long time frame, the tendency is to until we know whether they do not want to take too much of risks, I would say that, I would tend to tell them to look at equities as an asset class more aggressively than any other asset class, because he says 20 years.
Okay.
Let's for this point in time assume that he is wanting to take that risk.
Right.
Then I think about 26,000 per month of investments, and if he keeps doing that as a systematic investment every month, he should be able to reach his corpus for retirement.
Rajesh, I'm just going to take a break on that, and we'll come back and tell him where he should be investing that money, right? So we'll take a break, we'll come back, and we'll tell Rahul where he should be making those investments in what asset classes.
The Financial Planner, presented by BSC Investors Protection Fund. Investors Protection Fund.
Welcome back. You're watching Financial Planner. Rajesh, we were taking up Rahul's query. We've told him what he needs to do to meet those two goals. But now that we've decided the amount of money that he needs to invest every month to achieve those goals, where should he be putting this money? So what sort of asset allocation are you advising him?
Okay. I was just mentioning, given the 20-year time frame, the bias is towards equities. Not just because equity is interesting, but it's because that over the long term, companies tend to draw their strategies properly and get their numbers in place, and fund managers try to look at those companies, and you give them more time, and the money can work well for you. It's also proven, if you take funds like Franklin Blue Chip or a Reliance Vision Fund in India, 15 years, and you could see the kind of returns that this fund has delivered to investors who just stayed along the course. Whatever scams happened, whatever financial crisis came in the world, nothing deterred their investments. So if I look at it, I would look at putting 30% of Rahul's monthly investment into large cap funds. Couple of funds that we would look at would be the BlackRock Top 100 and the ICICI Prudential Focus Blue Chip. To add an element of superior return possibilities but with additional risk to the
Okay.
portfolio. We would look at a bit of exposure, or a fairly larger portion of the exposure into a couple of funds. There would be multi-cap funds so that the fund manager can go across
Right.
spectrum. These would be like UTI opportunities or even IDFC sterling equity, and a few like the fund that I just mentioned in the HDFC mid-cap fund, which would look at the mid-cap space. So that multi-mid-cap space is to leverage the potential in the smaller companies.
Right.
And finally, you have a 10%.
Sector specific.
Sector specific, or he could look for a thematic. It could also include international products.
Okay.
So you could look at even an international fund like a JP Morgan ASEAN fund, or you have the US Opportunities Fund. Some of these funds which are not correlated to the Indian market,
Okay.
He could look at that as well.
Investment Ladder, presented by BSE, Investors Protection Fund.
Well, that's the advice coming in for you, Rahul. Your asset allocation and, of course, what funds are attractive is what Rajesh has highlighted for you. With that, it's a wrap on this edition of Financial Planner. Thanks for watching.
The Financial Planner, presented by